Thank you. Moving on. You have in front of you the 2015-2016 Wildlife Management Tracking Recommendations from Paul Pira, our park biologist. If you have any questions, I will defer to Paul. So,
Paul, is there anything that you want to add to the summary that you prepared? Yeah, if you would, please.
Sure.
Could you please read for Frank Jacobson the totals?
Sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me a few minutes here to talk about a thing that unfortunately sometimes we have to do when you're managing wildlife is wildlife can be a nuisance at times and conflict with either damaging park infrastructure and/or damaging native wildlife or ecosystems that we are charged with protecting here in the park district. So yeah, before you, I have a memo on a summary of trapping, what we've done last year, 2014. And 15, we had 17 beaver, removed 24 muskrats, 1 weasel, and 31 raccoons. Everything except the raccoons were removed by private Geauga County trappers. The raccoons were removed by the USDA Wildlife Services as part of a rare species protection program that we have going on at one of our parks. And so this year, again, I'm recommending through review of my staff, Natural Resource Management, we had a meeting with the Ranger Department, the Planning Department as well is involved, and discussions about priorities and ways of dealing with some of these nuisance issues and protecting park infrastructure. We have flooded roads at times on Woody Brook Road by Bass Lake, things like that we unfortunately have to deal with at times. And so those are my recommendations. I have 7 parks or properties that we have to, that I'm recommending, Natural Resource Management is recommending that we deal with nuisance animals. And so what we need, I guess I need from you is to lift, there was a moratorium placed on trapping several months ago at a board meeting. What we need to do is I'm hoping that we can lift that moratorium so we can start trapping and removal of a successful program for it. And basically, it's a threatened species in Ohio. It's basically endangered animal that we're trying to protect through the work we have.
Paul, can you please articulate the specific nuisance issues that arose, which you believe warrant trapping for this coming 15-16 span of time that you're talking about?
Sure. Many of our parks, we have either wetlands that we maintain, that we've constructed out of projects for habitat, bird habitat that we've made, partnered with things like our organizations such as the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So we built a wonderful wetland in specific down the Furring Meadows. We're having issues with muskrats damaging that infrastructure. And so we have concerns. We would like to remove those animals and we may think about eventually how to protect the dam as well and things like that. So that's one. A couple of other pieces of property, we have ponds where there's routine kind of ongoing damage or maintenance of muskrat populations there. We have beaver issues at Bass Lake Preserve and the raccoon issues at our park that I just mentioned. So.
I had a couple of questions to ask you. In regards to the management, you have 2 properties with raccoon trapping. At Beartown Reservation, all you have is muskrat. Right now, we're having an issue that there are no ducks on those ponds. So are we going to consider trapping possible raccoons there for eating the duck eggs or snapping turtles or something so that we can bring a duck population back to those?
Well, I mean, it's something to consider. I could have, folks from my department, Natural Resource Management, look at that situation. We have not.
I think that would be good if we look at it. So that we could leave that open to you adding additional trapping if you all deem it necessary?
Yeah.
Okay. My only other question was number 4 of your program for 2015-16. You all require the participating trappers to fill out a return harvest information postcards within 1 month. Is there ever a problem that they don't return those, that you don't have them back?
Have we had that happen? Is that what you're asking? Yes, I believe we have. The Rangers, this past year kind of facilitated and ran the program, so maybe they could speak to that, but, over the years it has been at times, you have to, but.
Press them for those responses. Okay.
Is it accurate, Paul, that the only trapping that you're proposing then is with regard to these specific parks articulated and in order to control the nuisances that you have identified?
Correct. Yep.
And that you believe that it's biologically appropriate for wildlife management to continue this program?
I do. Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, Paul, because I've got a lake myself, and if I see muskrats, I've got a good friend, I said, get over here.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we've talked about this a lot, at the park and biologists, of course. I mean, we love beaver, we love muskrat, they create great wildlife habitat. We have a number of great parks, where we have beaver and they're doing their thing, and they're creating wonderful wetland habitat, and, so it's in a very few selected areas where we have these nuisance problems, and we have to deal with them.
And after someone submits their application so that they can participate in the lottery, then they are assigned a specific park, correct? Or a specific area where they will be trapping?
Typically, when I was running the program, yes, we would want to have a map and detail out kind of where our nuisance area was and what the nuisance species was. So that's kind of how I would run wildlife management, yeah.
And forgive me for asking this, but when we trapped this weasel, we weren't specifically trying to trap weasels, were we?
No, unfortunately, sometimes you have some high catch there.
Yeah. And what does a carcinite mean? GPD carcinite.
Carcinites are basically markers, boundary markers, plastic markers you pound into the ground to mark a property boundary.
I've never heard that word before.
Identification sign.
Yeah, so marking our property boundaries.
There was a gentleman here earlier, and I'm sorry, I don't recall which one of you it was, who asked the number of animals.
This is Franco.
Is his presentation satisfied your inquiry?
Well, I'm deducing then that we'll only be trapping beaver at Bass Lake next year. We won't trap them anywhere else.
No, Pine Kaplan in addition to Bass Lake.
That answer your question?
Yes.
Is there any merit to allowing more time to think about this, or are we pretty clear that this is an appropriate course of action to put in motion at this time?
Yes, no, we've gone out, my team of natural resource management has gone out and looked at the problems. We've already delayed the program for raccoon management at our park for the turtles.
Yes.
We've already delayed it by a month, so their USDA services has been calling me.
And they can do a lot of damage in the market.
Really, what we're dealing with is we need to ensure that at least during this time period right now, the beginning of June here is when nesting season of these turtles. I'm sure many folks have seen turtles walking around, crossing roads, things like that. So right now it's critical that a time period for this program to be run.
And when animals are trapped, is the entire animal removed from the park then?
It is.
I don't have any further questions, and I sincerely appreciate your comment.
Sure, thank you.
And for making this
Do you have any
presentation.
questions in regards to the
Just tell me, Fran.
Okay. So you want to go ahead and make a motion to accept the trapping suggestions by the Natural Resource Management 2015-2016 trapping areas and programs?
My recommendation would be to go ahead and lift the moratorium, make a motion to lift the moratorium and approve the trapping recommendations for 2015-2016 season.
For these target animals and these target parks.
Correct. As stated.
Also moved.
Second.
Mr. Gertz?
Yes.
Mrs. Shumway?
Yes.
Mr. Wondorf?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank
We have Matt come
Thank you
forward.
again, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Have Matt come forward and do a summary of where we stand with 2015 construction projects.
So you have in your board packet an update on where all the projects are. We got started with construction down at Throwing Meadows. That's moving along. Basically, we're at a point some masonry is going on. They poured the slab. They started with framing this week, so that's kind of moving along from that standpoint. We actually started the project at Headwaters just this week. The demolition will start early next week, and then that project will start kind of moving along too, as far as framing, excavation, footers. So those are the projects as far as where they're at right now. A couple of the other projects as far as the camping at Headwaters and the restrooms, we're just finalizing some permitting on those two projects. And then once we have all of the permitting finalized, those are going to be done internally. We'll start construction on those. And then internally, we completed the trails out at Observatory Park, and our construction crews moved to Orchard Hills and is doing some top dressing on some of the existing trails out at Orchard Hills.
I didn't have any questions.
There's really no action needed at this time.
Just an update.
That's just more of
I
an
have the
update.
same figures we had.
Correct.
Thank you for the update, though. Thank you very much. I appreciate your
My
coming in
apologies,
and
stay up here.
keeping us up to speed.
Next is new business. Matt's going to go ahead and do a presentation for the board on 2016 proposed projects.
So in addition to the current construction projects we have going on at the parks, in the planning department, we're also working on design development plans for projects that will be next year. Based on the planning process with permitting involved, having to go out to public bid on projects, we typically have to be a year ahead as far as where we're at in design. Also with budgeting, with where we're at in the budget cycle for 2016. So these are the projects we're currently working on right now. We're giving this presentation to the board so you have an idea of what we are looking at for next year. And again, this ties into both budgeting and then also being able to complete construction level drawings on all these projects and also bidding projects that may be going out to bid. So these are the projects we're kind of looking at right now. We talked about at the last meeting, Nassau Restoration, the Nassau Station project. So this is just a county map kind of showing Observatory Park where a few of the projects are at, Affeller House and Affeller, which is kind of part of the Westwoods, and then also down at Throwing Meadows. The first project we kind of covered at the last board meeting. This has been under design, development, and construction drawings with an outside consultant starting back in 2010. So I won't spend a lot of time, but basically the project that you talked about last meeting and approved for moving forward with for next year. This would be a project that would go out to bid. So we have to work with the consultants on preparing bid documents, permitting, and having that ready to bid towards the end of the year, beginning of next year. The next project, so these projects are projects right now that tentatively we are looking at doing in-house with our own staff, and it's a combination of our grounds and facility staff, construction crew, and then also our natural resource management staff. And there's a number of layers to these projects, but I'll give kind of an overview. The first project, Affelder Falls, this is the Affelder House, if you're familiar with that. And this is an existing Affelder Link Trail that actually goes all the way back to the West Woods Nature Center. We're proposing actually developing a trail that will come through from the Affelder House and link up to that trail. There's an existing sort of parking area here and here that this is actually an existing kind of primitive trail that we would just be sort of improving. And then also developing a crossing across the stream here, located just above the Affelder Falls. This is actually the location of this falls, and then there's actually a smaller falls right here. The reason we're proposing that site is we've looked at it. There's a number of reasons. It's actually a nice kind of narrow part of the stream where we can bridge the stream without having to put in too large of a crossing. And also looking at it from an impact standpoint with Paul, we all kind of agreed that it was both a safe place as far as, not having something too close to the falls, but still being able to view the falls as you come down the trail. So really this project offers an opportunity to kind of give people the ability to kind of see the falls. Because right now, kind of where it is, there's no trail really down there. And you do get people that kind of want to go down there. So we'd rather kind of direct people where we want them to go than just sort of, letting them kind of walk wherever through.
With regard to that map on the right, where's north?
North would be up.
Okay.
Route 306 is out here. This is actually the entry drive to Affelder. It kind of goes out, well, actually down here and out, and kind of crosses through where the power line corridor comes through
All
there.
right, thank you.
Can you tell me this trail, is this a walking only trail? Is this a walking, riding, biking? What is this trail?
Design-wise, it will be similar to all our other multi-purpose trails. It will be designed to a 6-foot wide width, which is comfortable for 2 people walking. It'll be a limestone aggregate, which is kind of the standard we've been using for the last 8 to 9 years in the park district. From a construction standpoint, it could handle horse traffic, foot traffic. It's multi-purpose use.
Okay.
As far as allowable uses on that trail, that's something more that, once we build a trail, that's really more the board and administration's call on. So we decide what we want to allow. So that's that project. This project is also at Affelder. The existing Affelder house, this is kind of a picture of the existing house. What we're looking at doing is some restoration. There's some tables there now currently. The idea is that this could be used by small groups, public groups, to utilize the space. It's actually, if you haven't been here, this is 2 stories of glass windows looking out towards the woods and some of the ravines. It's really a great setting. What we're looking at doing is rather than having card tables, again, this would be with our in-house construction crew, maybe developing and building some tables and seating that's kind of more in style and keeping with the building itself. And then also looking at fixtures maybe that we could update, and then some painting to kind of sort of give it a little bit of a facelift. And again, this would be something that we would try to do majority of work in-house with our own construction crews. We have some guys that do really nice work with furniture and that cabinets, so we want to kind of utilize those talents.
Matt, do you think there's any way to make that building accessible at the lower level to folks who are particularly challenged?
It is, actually, there is a trail that kind of comes, that is accessible, that comes around to the lower level and the terrace, that you can get in that way, as far as, but inside-wise, with the way the steps are, without doing an elevator, there's no way. Really.
So to the extent that there's an existing trail on the outside, we might enhance it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that would be something we could look at. It's, I believe it's kind of an aggregate trail, so that would be something if we want to do more.
Great.
Asphalt.
Thank you.
And then the next project is actually a project that NRM's worked with us on that really this has kind of evolved over the last few years. But at Observatory Park, this is kind of a large agriculture field right now that we keep in agriculture. When we we did the link trail that started last year construction-wise, this area was in agriculture, but with the new trail there, it didn't really make sense to kind of keep it in agriculture. So what we're proposing with the new shelter, this is the main observatory campus. This area here, we would develop a meadow area, about roughly 10 acres of meadow, and then also there's sort of an existing sort of drainage swale or ditch along here, that at the lower area we would develop a 2-acre wetland and possibly include sort of a little boardwalk area and create a mode path sort of as an offshoot of this main trail to bring people out to the wetland. But really develop kind of more of a meadow, wildflower area in between sort of the existing wood line and kind of that hard edge of the woods to kind of transition out into this space. And basically this is kind of the delineation of where the separation of kind of the stream that runs through here, and then this would be more the meadow area, and this would stay in agriculture up there. This project, what we're actually hoping to do is, if you remember earlier in the year, we purchased a new drill for seeding. So this would be something that our natural resource management department could do all the seeding themselves. We work with our construction crew on the grading and kind of the forming of the wetland area, and then also our construction crew could work on building the boardwalk. In addition to this, Paul and I talked a little bit, they've done a lot of kind of harvesting wildflowers from some of our other meadow areas like at Orchard Hills and that. So we'd like to expand that this fall and actually try to incorporate even some of our own seed into this mix, you know, as far as really kind of taking the approach of sort of utilizing what we have to kind of develop some of these new meadow areas. And then really kind of similar to that, this is another project at Observatory Park, another large area, if you're familiar with the Planetary Loop. When we first did the loop trail in 2010, we did a small meadow area over in this area. The rest of the area was kept in agriculture and soybeans for a few years. And then again, this is something where we want to go in and start to turn this into a 24-acre meadow area and also a little bit of meadow out here. This would be sort of a low sedge, kind of a lower area where we get more of a sedge meadow look, but again, create kind of a wildflower meadow, good habitat for birds, insects. And then also, from Brett's standpoint too, we can start to minimize mowing, because again, that's a there's a huge amount of mowing out at this park, so the more we can kind of create a sustainable landscape that we're not constantly having to mow, that helps out too, just from an operations end. So that's kind of the last project we're looking at out at Observatory Park. And then the final project is down at Throwing Meadows. This is the Throwing Meadows property. This is South Russell Park, which actually runs from East Washington all the way over to Bell Street. They kind of have a network of some trails kind of through this park. We have our kind of trail system. This is actually our trail, and then this is kind of their parking area for their park. We're proposing doing about 1,000 linear feet of an aggregate trail to allow users that maybe are using our trail system, if they want to go over and go into this park, kind of create a link between the two parks. They basically are across the street from each other, so it's really looking at, this is the existing utility corridor, this is actually the access road for the utility. We just want to create a little separation where our trail's kind of separate on our property, kind of local in that area. And again, that would be something we do in-house with our own construction.
We open ourselves to liability having across East Washington at that point?
This is no different than where our bike trail process roads.
Just check.
We can look at, you know, striking over the crosswalk we have to work with.
And you'll post the signs too.
Yeah, we do signage, actually, we do most of our signage in-house too. So those are kind of all the projects we have on the slate. Really, at this point, I wanted to get this information to you from the planning department, because like I said, with only one other planner, it's kind of critical for us to meet our deadlines, that we kind of add your support on these projects as we move through the budgeting and permitting process.
Matt, do you think there's any possibility that at some point in the future, if we do make that link between what you just showed us there with the South Russell Village, that there would be some way for us to have, like either through the power line or otherwise, a trail link with Westwoods?
There's been talk of that previously. There's actually along that utility corridor, that runs all the way down to Atfelder House, and actually it runs to the south down towards one of our other properties, the Ellerum property. So there is opportunity there to look at long-term if we could
Well, I think that'd really be great. What do we have to do in order to get that as part of your vision here for connecting Roaring with South Russell's Park? Do you think there's any, is that would be an enormous burden to add that now, or?
Well, this one's not too bad because we actually own the property.
Yes.
When you start getting into the other links, you can see where South Russell's property ends. That gets into working with First Energy, because it's actually
Yes.
their corridor. So I would say, if we want to start looking into that, that's a little bit more long-term, kind of having the conversations, you know, as far as if there's possibilities to develop trails in those corridors and how we might go about that. But I think that would be a little bit more long-term than what we're looking at right here for next year.
Oh, I understand. I'm just wondering if, you know, if there's something that we can put in motion now so that it's the next lily pad that we would try to extend to after we, you know, potentially make the link that you just mentioned.
No, those are conversations John's actually had with the planning staff in the past about links between the Westwood and some of the other parks, so
Because if you're
we
a
have it
hiker,
on our radar.
because if you're a hiker, it would be great to have a little bit further distance than the current length of the trails at Roaring and up through South Russell. I mean, it's not much of a project.
And really, it's, I hate to say it, it's kind of an easy connection to, because at Throwing, we have sort of, if you're ever out of Throwing, it's like you see a lot of the same people out there, so I think even just offering an opportunity to maybe have a
Yes.
safe link over to.
Across the cultural link.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
What we would look for as far as proposal in July, we'll see the temporary budget that will go before the Budget Commission, and these projects will be included, and we would ask that you commit to them at that time. What we try to do our best at is taking the staff that's available to us and what construction projects we can accomplish in the next year. So we would ask that you approve that in July. Is that accurate, Matt?
Yeah, it was just so when you look at the budget in July, you have a little background.
So what about any costs though for the link from the northeast corner of the South Russell Park to Affelder? I mean, should we include some preliminary costs, even legal costs, for the negotiation of the necessary easement with CEI in our budget?
We do have some, in the proposed budget, we have some land acquisition costs in there for unknown. That would be in there, and you always have the, because it is a working document, essentially, you always have the potential to go back and make some adjustments, like we actually will need later on today. If that becomes available in conversations, you can make adjustments at that time to add additional funding in.
The first step would really be looking at the distances we're talking about, really studying kind of what's going on with the grade and topography, and then getting sort of an idea of cost-wise construction costs, and then from there we can really build design costs and also any kind of legal costs for each.
Have we ever thought about, I know this is getting out of the leaves and twigs here, but like little huts along the trails so that if it starts hailing ferociously, that you have a place to take shelter?
We haven't discussed that in the 7 years I've been here. Again, with trails and that, just doing a trail is kind of an impact, so we try to be sensitive so we can look at, you know, I think that'd be something we want to
Well, I mean,
discuss.
if, for example, golfers can take refuge in a little. That's for sure. I'm not thinking about any place to sleep. Just
Yeah.
some place where you could get underneath something if it was raining or snowing or something ferociously. It would be really bad. So.
We could take that into consideration.
One of the things, you folks, if you've never been to the Affelder House, sometime in the next year or two, get back there. It's really nice. The setting is gorgeous, and if you decide you want to rent it for a while, give us a call. Really nice. Yes, I am.
Our price is very reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Matt.
One